By the way, if you're at this point, like this always kind of bangs my head. Like, how was it during the 1983-85 video game crash? Like, if I guess you're the only person I know.
Yeah,
I
we
can ask.
can. Yeah, we can ask
Yeah,
this question. Yeah.
I was there. I mean, we went from millions of sales. I mean, we'd release on cassette in those days. We'd release the cassette, and you go and do 1 million units without thinking about it. I mean, people love that these days. I mean, it's just everything sold, and we haven't built those numbers up now because there's so many. I'll explain why later, but yeah, it's all of a sudden we release something. It's like, what is happening here? It's not actually doing the numbers anymore, you know, the situation, the global economy, and we've been through some of that recently, just changed everything. I say the word studio loosely. It was just a small conglomeration of guys. I mean, someone said to me, in all sorry, I mean, just to myself a couple of weeks ago, that when I was doing the original 8-bit games, that you could put all the 8-bit developers who had made a chart game on a bus together and go on a trip.
It's 4 a.m. and we're rolling the dice. Potato drops, knowledge made of golden eyes. Felix with ads making those coins rise. Jack up designs, worlds chasing the sky. We're the 2.5 gamers, the midnight crew. Talking UA adverts and game design too. Matej, Felix, Shaka bringing the insight. We're rocking those vibes till the early daylight. Matej, UA, master eyes on the prize. Tracking data through the cyberspace skies. Felix stacks dollars like a wizard in disguise. Jacob's crafted realms lift us to the highs. 2.5 gamers talking smack. Slow hockey stick, got your back. Ads are beautiful, they light the way. Click it fast, don't delay.
Okay. Yeah, we can definitely start it. Okay. Hello, everybody. This is Matej Lančarič.
And this is Jakub Bremiar.
And we are your hosts, and we have very, very, very special guests. Not guests, but guests with lots of experience.
See, I'm looking around for the others, guys. But
Yeah, it's got a guest, but it's multiple guests in one guest. It's multiple guests in one guest because you have so many years of experience. Jane, welcome to 2.5 Gamers. For people who don't know, which I'm not sure if there is any, like, can you introduce yourself and talk about like whatever you've done before in so many games?
yeah, well, firstly, it's such a pleasure to be here with you guys, and thank you for the invite. It means a lot. So, and thank you to everybody who's watching. 44 years in games. My first game was in the early 1980s for the Sinclair ZX81. In 1981. Yeah, I know you're going to laugh because I'm so darned old.
We were not here.
Well, we were here. Yeah, we were already here. Not
1981. No, we were not
80,
here.
Not 81. No. No, yeah. Okay.
There we go. I knew it. I knew it. Don't get me laughing. We're being professional now. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, 1981, the Sinclair ZX81 onto the Sinclair Spectrum, and I went through the whole thing: the Commodore 64, the Atari ST, the Amiga PCs, and I've worked on, I believe, pretty much every gaming system that's been released. That's done well in the mass market. Apart from Sega, I've never done a Sega game, but I've done the PlayStations, Nintendos, PCs, all of it. First job was at 14. I was doing some side work on the franchise with Sid Meier in his first company.
Okay.
So Sid had a company called Microprose, and that was sort of my first work in my teens. So done for the bedroom. Like, it was all indie then, guys. I mean, we talk about indie developers now. It's all we had.
Yeah, it's a different world. Yeah.
Yeah. For those who don't know, like, Sid is the guy who did Civilization.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right, and a very nice man too. Yeah, I mean, we spoke about games publishers in those days. What they meant was that was your kitchen, you know. So the indie developer was the bedroom, the kitchen was the publishing room. So I worked with Sid, and I got to work during my early years with people such as Mike Singleton. Now, a lot of you younger people won't know Mike, but Mike was credited as the father of open world gaming. We sadly lost him. He passed away from cancer, but he did a multitude of open world titles, including the Midwinter franchise. And I was very lucky to work with him on that. So that my background in open world, etc., that comes all the way back to me being relatively young and working with Mike. So if you don't know Mike Singleton, Google him. He is regarded as the father of home computing. And he did millions upon millions of units in the 1980s, and he was my mentor. So between him and working with Sid and Wild Bill Steely, the other co-founder with Sid Meier, I had a really good start. And then, so I'm yapping away already. This is supposed to be the quick introduction. Look at this.
No, I mean, look,
It's
well,
great.
usually, yeah,
Finally talking open world games, the games I play.
There we go.
Yeah,
It's the games I play too. It's the games I make and the games I play. And then I moved on to various companies, including Atari, probably best known for Alien vs Predator Atari, and which was the best-selling console game for the Atari Jaguar, and launched PC games and all sorts of things based on that work.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining this episode. Hey, are you wondering what's the latest development with Epic versus Apple mean for your mobile games? Well, for an ever-growing number of game developers, it means that now is the perfect time to invest in monetizing direct-to-consumer at scale. Our sponsor, Fast Spring, has delivered D2C at scale for over 20 years. They power top mobile publishers around the world and are reliably fast-growing, profitable, and very financially secure. So FastSpring isn't just figuring out D2C on the heels of the recent VC investment. Their developer-first platform and deep gaming and payment expertise have helped democratize global commerce for over 2 decades. As no drama D2C partner with real-world experience at scale, FastSpring is a partner that you can trust with your players. The quickly launch a new web store, replace an existing D2C vendor, or just add redundant D2C vendor at fastspring.gg. Thank you very much, guys, for sponsoring this episode. Now let's get back to the content. Bye-bye.
But by the way, if you're at this point, like this always kind of bangs my head. Like, how was it during the 1983-85 video game crash? Like, if I guess you're the only person I know.
we can ask.
I was there. I mean, we went from millions of sales. I mean, we'd release on cassette in those days.
Yeah.
We'd release the cassette, and you go and do 1 million units without thinking about it. I mean, people love that these days. I mean, it's just everything sold, and we haven't built those numbers up now because there's so many. I'll explain why later, but yeah, it's all of a sudden we release something. It's like, what is happening here? It's not actually doing the numbers anymore, and you know the situation, the global economy. We've been through some of that recently. Just changed everything. So for me, I was lucky. I was able to continue on. Sales were down, but I kept plugging away. But many small developers, unfortunately, fell by the wayside and never came back. It sort of rationalized the industry. It wasn't just the sales; it's about who's still going to be around, which studio is still going to be around. I mean, I say the word studio loosely. It was just a small conglomeration of guys.
Yeah.
I mean, someone said to me, in all sorry, I'm adjusting myself here, a couple of weeks ago, that when I was doing the original 8-bit games, that you could put all the 8-bit developers who had made a chart game on a bus together and go on a trip. So that was the size of the industry. So it was a big hit for us. But and there's probably some truth in that. There were probably maybe 50, 60 of us who were actually, and there are lots of people doing it as a hobby, but those who were actually selling, worldwide, it was very, very small. I mean, you see more than that on a single game now. So we're really pioneers, I think, and it taught me a lot. Yeah, and then I went to Atari, as I mentioned, Alien vs Predator. Teams got a bit bigger then. Would you believe there were 2 of us programming Alien vs Predator? I mean, really.
Yeah, I want to say like for 1 to 3 maybe, but yeah, 2.
But
oh my god!
Those are, if I understand, those are still the times where there was like programmer was the only guy doing the game, meaning like
the game design as well, right?
The game design, the programming, the art, which was mostly like programmer generated. If I get it
Yeah,
right.
well, yeah, absolutely right, and the music.
And
Well, I did an 8-bit game. I worked on an 8-bit game called Flying Shark for Firebird and Rainbird, which was another one of Sid's companies. Firebird and Rainbird was Sid bought that, and I did an arcade conversion, a Tato arcade coin-op. I worked along with others on the Flying Shark, and I was asked to do the music for the music drivers. I didn't actually compose the music, but I had to write the music driver code for the Amstrad version of the Amstrad computer. And my gosh, was I lost! I had no idea. I don't know anything about musical notes. Like I got it out. You can go and play the game now. It's got my sound drivers that were actually driving the music, but I'd never done sound before or since because we just had to do everything then. You're quite right, it was everything. I still design now as well as write code and everything because I'm still something of an all-rounder. And that's because I had to be when I started the business.
There was
There
no
was
other
nothing
way.
else. That's exactly right, Matt. There's no other way. But with the Alien vs Predator, it became, I guess, my signature game. Everyone talks to me about it. But the coding was myself and Mike Beaton, the primary coding. We had a really great guy called Mike Pooler who did the compression system called JagPeg, which is like a JPEG for the Atari Jaguar. But the actual JagPeg, what a great name! So it sounds like something you put your washing on the line. I've got my JagPeg.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Mike Beaton and myself, Mike did the 3D engine. It's a fantastic program. It came from Argonaut. That's going back to the 80s as well. Argonaut did things like Starglider and all some of these big games. And Mike built the 3D engine, and then my job was anything that happens in the world was me. Player interaction, AI, gameplay, and anything else. So Mike built the environment, and anything that moves in it was me, is what we always say. And that was it in programs. We had some good artists, really good artists, and some great musicians too. And the best producer in the world, a guy called Purple Hampton, Atari, became a very famous Atari producer. But in terms of the actual day-to-day code, me and Mike, and that actually is still Atari's biggest console game.
What's the name of the game?
Alien vs Predator.
Oh, hello there. I didn't see you. Thank you very much for coming to this episode. It's brought to you by our sponsors, PVX Partners, the simplest and most effective credit line for marketing. If you're scaling your business and need funding, here's the deal. With PVX Partners, you can grow your game easily and your business. There's no equity dilution. You can repay as you get paid, and it's flexible, fast, and fully tailored to your growth. So you can secure funding in 30 days and get a term sheet in just 24 hours. Don't you wait. Take control of your UA budget without giving away a piece of your company. Visit pvxpartners.com and see how they can help you grow your game faster and stronger. Don't wait. Go to pvxpartners.com. And while you have you here, we also want to thank our sponsors, Vibe.co, because this episode is brought to you by them as well. They can help you grow your brand on CTV ads. With Vibe, you can launch high-impact campaigns across top streaming platforms like Hulu, Roku, Tubi, and whatever else. I mean, all from one simple dashboard. We don't have all of these in Europe. Anyway, so it's built for brand all sizes. It's rated on 4.8 out of 5 on G2 for a reason. Join over 5,000 marketing teams already scaling with streaming TV. Visit vibe.co to get started. That's vibe.co. Join them. And thank you very much for joining us for this special episode. Now let's get back to it. Thank you. Well, Elliot, this is Elliot. Yeah, we were talking about Elliot.
AVP,
already. Already.
So, but it was just the two of us.
Yeah, do you think it would be a different game if you had the tools that are here? Well, they're here now, but if you had the tools back then, would it be different?
It'd be massively different, I think. I'm actually working on my personal survival game now. It's been mentioned on over 1,000 websites in the last week talking about. I wanted to go back and do a modern survival game based on what I learned. So it's something we can talk about later, guys. And I'll put 2 or 3 shameless plugs in along the way.
No worries.
You put it here, of course. Come on, I mean, it's super interesting.
But yeah, I mean, the biggest issue we had was cartridge space. There was so much we wanted to put into AVP, and we used the cartridge. There wasn't a byte of memory left on the cartridge. So people saying, why didn't you do this and why didn't you do that? And you could have had aliens climbing walls and all of these things. Well, actually, no, there wasn't even space for another line of code on that cartridge. We literally maxed the cartridge out. That's why Mike Pooler had to do a compression system, because we had to decompress real time even to get the game we had to fit on the cartridge. So we were totally maxed out. So the biggest tool I would have liked was a bigger cartridge. Italy, within a couple of weeks of shipping, they doubled the cartridge size for everybody because they found out to make bigger cartridges.
Yes.
Just after we shipped, of course. But yeah, I mean, these days, of course, you write in C++. Those days, it was all in pure assembler. Everything was written in binary assembly.
I had a programmer on my team in my first project that was talking to me about assembler. that I remember, but that's all of it.
So it was 68,000 assembler, and there were two custom microprocessors in there that John Matheson designed for the console, and they were called Tom and Jerry, which I've always loved. So I would like to mention them. So we had a 68,000 processor and Tom and Jerry, and we had to code those direct to the metal, as they say, actually in binary assembler. No C++ or no Visual Studio development environment or anything. We just sat there with binary files and had to link them together to make that game.
It's a different world than what it is now. I can tell. Well, only from the outside, obviously.
Yeah, it's changed massively in our industry. And then from there, I went to Metro Goldwyn Mayer, MGM, and because I'd done well on the movie-based game, I got asked if I wanted to go to MGM, and I became development director at MGM and a senior vice president there. So I looked after the James Bond franchise and the James Bond games for MGM, including GoldenEye and 64, which people always talk to me about too. I didn't write the code for GoldenEye. I'm not taking the credit for the code for GoldenEye, but I was the one at MGM who thought it was a really great idea that we do this with Nintendo and find a good team. So we signed up Rare, a team called Rare, who were my favorite team at the time. And Nintendo and MGM got together and we hired Rare to do GoldenEye N64, and so I sort of went from AVP straight to GoldenEye as I left Atari and went to MGM. So I got a couple of lucky breaks there. As I say, people keep saying to me, "I don't think you coded GoldenEye N64." No, I didn't. Just be absolutely clear. No, I didn't. I was on the management team at MGM that made the decisions and the game design decisions with Nintendo because I got promoted.
Yeah, but there's so much more. So much more.
Yeah, there's lots. And then from there, many years at Electronic Arts.
Yeah.
And then from there, a Barking Dog.
This is the.
Look at that! Where did you find that?
Yeah. I saw him. He's typing and just looking elsewhere. Like, okay, he's just gonna bring this up for sure.
Yeah, because people definitely need to see this, like, because I don't think so they'll grasp like what we're talking about when talking about these games.
It looks very crude now, but it was groundbreaking at the time.
Of course,
no, 100%, yeah.
Yeah.
But we're talking 32 years old. Yeah, so I love it, and the game I'm working on now, which we're calling Zeno. There you go. Look at that shotgun collector. I used to love wandering around like that.
This is pre-Wolfenstein, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's around the same time. I'm not sure it's pre or after, but around the same time. And what we did, and I say we, this is all Mike's work and not mine, is you'll find there's floors and ceilings. We're one of the first to do floors and ceilings in an FPS. But see, if you go back to Wolfenstein, etc., there's no floor, no ceiling in the rendering engine.
There's no ceiling.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
So this is a mistake I made. When I killed the aliens. When you kill an alien, you get the acid damage. And after I shipped, I suddenly realised I'd not removed the aliens, so they don't time out. So the acid damage is always there. So actually, it means, as you see, it hasn't disappeared, so you're going to still take the damage. But what it did mean is people now actually think, where should I kill this? So it's not just shooting something as it arrives like that. It's where should I kill this so I can get through the doors and avoid the problems.
Okay,
so it's actually fortuitous error, really.
So I have it. So this is released 1994.
1994, that's
Atari
right.
Jaguar, Atari Lynx, and Doom is 1993.
Yeah, but you said Wolfenstein. So
but we started the coding of this in 92. It was a 2-year project. So I don't know when John started Doom.
Yeah.
We're in that same ballpark, aren't we?
This time 1992.
There we go.
Okay.
Wolfenstein, Doom, and then
we have Immersive.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's amazing.
I'm not going to upset Mr. Carmack and Mr. Romero. I get on well with both, and I was recently on a BAFTA judging panel. John Romero and I sat together and judged BAFTA games, so I'm not going to offend him.
No worries.
But this launched the whole idea of AVP franchise, the Dark Horse comics and everything.
I'm a massive fan of the franchise. Like that's like, I think.
Well, so somebody came to us at Atari and said, Fox, I believe, and said, can you do an Alien game? We said, yeah. Can you do a Predator game? I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
great, but not both at the same time because we need the people. So we say, okay, we'll put them together. Alien versus Predator.
It's actually having like a pretty big resurgence these days, if I understand, like with all the new Alien movie and like a second one being ordered and a series and something. So yeah, definitely live and kicking.
And I was
it's huge.
I was getting mesmerized watching that. I'd not seen that in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I recently got called the father of the survival game because of this, because it's not an FPS. It's more about survival and strategy and stealth. So I was told by one of the big gaming sites that was the father of the survival game. So the new game now, Xenomorph, is not the Alien license, but I'm going back to the things I've learned about survival and stealth and crafting and all these things, and bringing that into the modern world. For 30 years, people have asked me to go back and do another creature game. So that's what I'm doing now. We've got investment, we've got funding, we've got a publisher, and away we go. So it's good that you found that, Jacob, because that's exactly what I'm doing now. Is my personal sequel. We just made the announcement recently.
That's great.
Oh, yeah.
Where did we stop? I think I cut your timeline there.
Yeah, with EA, I think, but this is super important.
Yeah, so EA had some years at EA, and I was very lucky. I came into EA just after Peter Molyneux left.
Peter Molyneux.
So
character.
So I picked up on some of Peter's titles, etc., and led those. So I had the fancy title of executive in charge of production.
By the way, again, one of these questions is burning me. What happened with Dungeon Keeper franchise? Why it's sitting there doing nothing?
Yeah.
There were internal changes at EA. Bullfrogs no more. I agree with you. I loved Dungeon Keeper. I didn't work on
Dungeon Keeper 1 and 2 is my best games ever made. Like seriously, I could play that like a million times.
Well, I was at Bullfrog in production for Dungeon Keeper 2, or was it 3? Dungeon Keeper games I was at I joined Bullfrog in '97, so you guys work out which Dungeon Keeper it was. And we had Theme Park World and lots of things going on. And I also led a project called Indestructibles. When Peter left, he left a portfolio of game ideas, and my job was to pick up on some of those game ideas and bring them to life. So it was really interesting to say, thanks, Peter. Here's what you've left me. And one of those was Indestructibles, which was a superhero game. It'd been tried on console by a guy called Sean Cooper at Bullfrog before, but in '97 I was asked to do a PC version, which was really interesting. I got to work with who I consider to be the best programmer in the world, the engine programmer, Jan Swarovski. And you can Google it. You're not developers, but developers use the books called Graphics Gems and all this sort of thing. There's like big developer guides, and Jan's like the regular contributor, Mr. 3D. So I was really lucky to work with him. And so we worked on a superhero game that never shipped. Ironically, the one that got away at Bullfrog, because Marvel didn't like it and they didn't want to license it. So like, you're stealing all our characters. I'm like, no, we'll license. We're happy to take the Marvel license, but it all went horribly wrong. So we built a game, and between Marvel and DC complaining about who has what rights to what, it got shelved. But it was a really fun game to work on.
Do I get it right that before it was the norm that you would build a game and then ask for the license?
Absolutely right. Nowadays, we have to do it the other way around now.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons, so these problems don't occur.
And it was like accepted normal. Because if I understand, this is how also StarCraft came to life, whereas guys built it for Warhammer and then didn't get the license and then went their own way.
That wouldn't surprise me. That would not surprise me. I mean, I actually got involved in World of Warcraft too. So I told you I've been involved in so many games.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just great age, guys. I keep telling you. And there was a chap called Peter Rezon, a lovely man who was also passed now. He looked after the UK side of Blizzard, and they needed some help out in the States on 3D engine design and landscape design. And I went out and helped and advised on this project, and it had multiple names during development. And Peter sent me across to Los Angeles. It was all really, really nice. And a few months later, someone said to me, "We're calling it World of Warcraft," it wasn't when I was working on it, but so I helped architect the landscape and things. I just brought in because of my 3D knowledge.
That was what, like 2001, 2002?
Yeah, if not a bit before.
World of Warcraft is like what, 2004 or 6 the release?
Yeah, I mean we probably started a bit before that.
Yeah.
But yeah, early 2000. But yeah,
2004 the release.
but that was a guy called Peter Rezon who looked after Blizzard and Vivendi. He was Blizzard, Vivendi, Universal, and Universal Studios owned it all. Yeah, so Peter was a dear friend. He said, "Do you want to go and help fix?" And I got flown out to LA and got the star treatment. It's really nice. I'd only just returned from living in the US, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll go back out to LA again." But they gave me great times. I don't know if I'm credited or not. I don't really care. I'm not a credit person, but it's just nice. It was really nice just to be on that gig to help get that thing going, you know. But they say it didn't become World of Warcraft until after I'd left. So continuing open world, lots of stuff at EA, and then Microsoft. I became famous for the Microsoft Flight Simulator franchise, again because I'm an open world person.
Yeah, makes sense.
You don't get a bigger world than the whole world. But the big thing with Microsoft Flight Simulator is we had to create every inch of the world. Because you could take off and fly from anywhere to anywhere. So you are building the ultimate. Technically, it's the most difficult open world you're going to make. Because you're on the ground and you're in the air as well. Yeah. So I worked on that, and I did the official expansion packs for Steam, the Steam version of Flight Simulator 10 or Flight Simulator X, as people call it. So all the official expansion packs for Steam was me on my own. I just sat and solo wrote those, even though I was working as an executive and a board level VP at the time. On my evenings, I was doing the official expansion packs for Flight Simulator. And I've worked with Train Simulator too, because of course that's a big open world thing. Only in April, I shipped an expansion pack for Train Sim World with Dovetail Games with my team. A fantastic guy. I'm going to give him a plug, Mike Meaden on my team, and my programmer Aaron. We created some expansion pack content for that. So I've been around lots and lots of games, but the general theme is it's explorable worlds, health, and survival. So usually one or more of those elements has sort of defined every game I've done in my career. So that's sort of the specialization of what we do.
Have you ever get in any relationship with Ultima Online at some point?
Yes. When I was at when I was at EA, because I say this because Richard Garrett and I get on really well. So Richard's made some lovely testimonials on my behalf recently. I can share them with you guys if you want to put them on screen. But he says, well, he was talking about him and I being the sage gurus of the games industry, which was from Richard Garrett, which was a lovely thing for him to say. So
for those who don't know, Richard Garriott is a very, very important game industry person who's credited with Ultima Online, basically.
Yeah, and which became, which was all part of EA Origin. So we still have the Origin story here now, and of course that was Richard's business.
I mean,
yeah,
we can see it quite clearly here.
Oh yeah, there's
on your page. Yeah,
is that the quote? Is it? Well, I need my glasses on. Yeah. So yeah, that's the quote from Richard, which I'm very proud of, really.
Yeah. Not only Richard, but also some other guys from.
Oh, there's Sam.
Yeah.
From Sam Tramiel of Mr. Atari.
Yeah.
Above that's Robert Stanley Brass, who does open world games.
This as well, Mr. Nolan. Yeah.
Yeah, Nolan Buff.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah, but for those who don't know, Ultima Online is, in my opinion, the open world MMORPG game released in 1990s.
Absolutely, it is the ultimate one, Jacob.
I played it for like 3 to 4 years, I think, constantly when I was younger on like a Czech Shards open server, when we were literally like, there were all these things around us, like World of Warcraft, Lineages, and all these like new games, but we were still playing this really old game. It's just so good.
Richard nailed it.
And there was no leveling system, by the way. For those who don't know, like in Ultima Online, there's no leveling system. You literally learn by doing. Like the moment you do something, you improve your skill in it, and that's it. Like that was it. Like you start chopping wood, your lumberjacking skill increases.
Yeah, and that's what I'm doing in the new game. By the way, the same thing. Because I found some of these leveling systems to be artificial, and then you end up in a situation where you're level 50 in the level 1 zone, and you're just swatting everything. Or likewise, they're too strong for you. They're either too strong for you or too weak for you. And so on the new game, we're working on ideas of avoiding these sort of leveling traps and making it more organic, where you learn as you grow and as you go. For that very reason. I mean, people do the level scaling and all the rest of it. It's still not a great answer.
Oh well,
the best answer is to avoid that sort of leveling.
Yeah, we played Diablo 4 together, and it was fucking terrible.
Yeah, and you got to go round and round the same thing.
Yeah, it's like, come on, like
Yeah, the
guys.
monsters get level up faster than you, and therefore you never progress pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was so. Oh my god.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
they don't make games these days this way. Basically, like Ultima Online did. Like even like the specialization, because I remember that there was literally like me going every day to the Craftsman Guild, trying to like buy materials or stuff, or literally order some armors or whatever from people that were like specializing in craftsmanships. Were like completely unusable in battle, but they were still like the richest people on the server because they were selling all this shit.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we were
Created its own world within the world, didn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then we were the ones that were actually fighting and using it, or to battle player killers or go to dungeons and stuff like that. And we were equally wealthy basically because we were putting in the time in the dungeons, but they were putting the time in the forge.
Yeah. You couldn't
Yes,
do it
absolutely right.
without them. You couldn't do
Yeah, you couldn't do without them, of course.
I can give you a little Richard Garriott anecdote, because he did the trip. He went up into space, and then he wanted to go as deep as he could, so he went to the Mariana Trench. And I think Richard and I must have got some sort of record because we were emailing each other while he was in the trench. So we sent. I think we sent the only email that was from that low in the world in the Mariana Trench, because he set up an internet connection on his trip, and we were emailing backwards and forwards while he was going down there, going down into the trench. So I suppose that's a nice little anecdote there. Probably the deepest email ever sent.
Yeah. Oh man. How can you translate all the learnings from AVP to Xeno, the new game? Like you said, you're trying to avoid the leveling system. What else? Tell us a little bit more.
I want lots of stealth, lots of smart crafting. It's a survival game. It's not a shooter. If you want to run around and shoot anything, well, you're quite welcome if you find some weapons. But it's not. The point is, it's how do I survive in this environment? Not, and this doesn't mean going scrabbling around for 4 pieces of food or something. This is the actual environment's out for you, and the creatures in the environment are out for you. So it's about how do I act smartly to live in this environment? How do I learn the behaviors of the people who live there, the creatures that live there? How do I adapt to this world? So it means survival in the actual sense of I have to think about what I'm doing in this universe, not just collect 10 pieces of magnesium and turn it into something else. Because that's not my idea of crafting and survival.
Yeah,
That drives me
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, but then there's like the fear and tension, like anything like around the
Which
survival.
is
It's very important.
exactly what I got famous for. Was the fear and tension in AVP and other titles I did too. I mean, I don't think I scared anyone in Flight Simulator, but I certainly did in. I certainly did in AVP, and that fear and the tension. You're quite right. That's the driving force of this game. Once you've got the mechanics of that survival, I want you to be going around every corner and not knowing what on earth's around that corner. Don't go rushing around the corner because you don't know who's going to be sat waiting for you. And I want that sense all the time. Dark brooding places, forests, caves, just this complete tension and fear. And going back to AVP, when we're building AVP, we used to work right through into late into the night at the Atari offices, and we turn the lights off, and we actually got scared playtesting our own game.
I can imagine.
And then we didn't even want to walk home or whatever in the middle of the night from the Atari office. And then that was when we were coding the thing. And I wanted to bring that back, to bring that entire sense back. So you're quite right. That's the driving force behind that. To look at survival, to look at strategy, to create a crafting system. Mike Meaden and Sean Delaney are working with me on that right now. Create a crafting system where it isn't collect 10 of these and 15 of those. It's much more organic, where you actually bring things together and find parts and improvise. Improvisation is a big thing.
More sandbox.
Yeah, absolutely right. But over the top of all that, I want this whole thing of tension, of fear. We didn't put music in AVP as you're playing. And people said, why didn't you? Because we wanted you to hear the heartbeats, wanted to hear the predator laughing at you, and all these things. And I learned such a great deal about building tension in games. And this is what I'm shipping across. So we're not, as I say, we're not using the alien license because I want to create creatures that aren't limited by somebody else's IP. We want to do some new things, but certainly the tension. Because I mean, there's loads of alien games now. So I didn't want to do
you
it.
don't need to have a license to be successful.
Yeah.
You can just look at Helldivers. Like they don't have the license, and
That's
they're
right.
really successful.
But it wasn't even that. I mean, we could have got the license. I have a good relationship with Disney. It's Disney's now, but I genuinely wanted to be able to do things that we couldn't fit within a license. But taking those core ideas of
It's
stealth
it's limiting, of course. Yeah, it's limiting.
That's exactly it.
But these games are like quite popular these days, if I understand. Like something like, I don't know, Sons of the Forest or these other like horror-based survival
Sons of
games.
the Forest is very good.
Yeah. For those who don't know, this again, I can do a little bit of a screen
Yeah,
here.
you can.
Yeah, 225k reviews here on Steam, and this is basically kind of similar what Jane is saying, that like survival stuff in this kind of a horror-based. I don't know if these are cannibals against your zombies or something like that. And this really blew up last year.
Yeah, but from what I understood from Jay, like it's not going to be more about like shooting these, like, but more like crafting and trying to survive in the wilderness.
You can shoot.
You can.
But you're going to have to make a weapon in the first place. So,
Yeah.
you're going to have to actually do I hit them with a piece of wood? Do I go and find something? So a lot of salvage and improvisation. But yeah, so you can if you want to go out and fight, great. But you might be smarter actually avoiding some enemies.
Mm-hmm.
So Sons of the Forest became very combat focused. This game can be. It's up to you. It depends how you want to play it. But me personally, I want it to be focused in combat when you need to combat and be smart when you can. So, setting traps away from your base and base building and, maybe a quarter of a mile away, a couple of kilometers away, having some traps set in the forest and, you hear a little ding and someone's getting caught in the net. All this sort of business. Not just that visceral combat, which everyone's doing now. So I'm not going to say it's not combat, but it's like mix the combat with being clever about how you do it. Don't just go rushing into situations.
Yeah.
Try and create other opportunities for bringing the enemy down.
Also,
if you even need to, or even try and avoid the enemy, even knowing you're there for as long as you can.
Yeah.
As you're first building up your base, don't make a lot of noise. Be very, very quiet. Perhaps you want to put your base underground or something. So literally try and avoid the enemy until you think you're smart enough to go out and face them.
Do you also have some kind of maintenance mechanics like Don't Starve or something similar, where you have like watch your health, or I don't mean health, like food gauge or something like that?
We're working on the UI, but yes, I mean yes, there's food and everything, but it's not in. If I don't eat within 40 seconds, I'm going to get a screen's going to go red. That's just annoying. But
I fully agree.
But it is, there is requirement that you eat and drink to survive, but not in such a way where it just becomes an obstacle where you're trying to do something else. I think that's been done a bit too far.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's you're halfway on a raiding mission. It's like, oh my gosh, if I don't eat this sausage now, I'm done for.
Yeah, fully agree with this. Like, I can't play these games where like I want to take care of myself first, and then I need to take also care of the character in the video game and feed him and drink and stuff like that, which is like annoying.
Yeah, because then the game is all about like just eating and trying to hunt for food, and then just you don't explore anything else.
Because you don't have time to. You just try to keep your character alive. So yes, there is a survival element, but not to where it becomes super intrusive. It's about surviving. It's about not surviving against your own body. It's about surviving against the environment and what's out there. And that's a personal thing. I'm glad you guys are validating it as gamers. So thank you.
Well, it's gonna be PC, Steam, or
PC,
you're thinking about
PC and
mobile?
consoles. PC. PC and consoles.
That's good.
No mobile.
Good with us.
I mean, of course.
We have a PC segment now, so we keep reviewing PC games from time to time more and more these days because of the forces that are pretty much pushing a lot of the PC successful games into mobile, if they want or not, basically.
Yeah, I've never done a mobile game, I have to say. So there you go. You found my career gap. I've only ever done PCs and consoles.
You have only 40 years of experience. Oh my god, I'm not
sure. No, it's not good enough, is it? I should be doing mobile games.
Yeah, thank you very much for listening, guys. So we end here.
Yes, sorry, you're done.
No, but are you thinking about mobile or not really? It's just, I mean,
not for this game. It's not going to fit. I have some ideas about companion apps on mobile and other things that fit into the IP that we're creating. So I'm not saying there won't be things on mobile, but you're not going to be able to fit this onto any sort of meaningful way.
Okay. How close are you with the release?
We're about 2 years, to give or take. We're putting the gameplay in now. We've got some engine stuff done, and the design team are working now. We have this lovely lady called Blair, who's a concept artist. She won the Blizzard Scholarship Awards, and she's as I'm talking to you, I've got her on Discord. Showing me monsters, so it's good to see.
It's perfect. Yeah, it's good.
I thought she was doing portraits of me, but apparently not. It's monsters for the game, so we're okay. Yeah, so there's a lot going on. So we're just starting to put pieces together, and we've sorted a publisher. We've got some funding to push it to the finish line, which is
Well, it's
super
like how,
exciting.
yeah, how is it that if you when you don't really need to do it all alone?
Yeah,
Quite the change.
The biggest thing for me is trying not to interfere in other people and be a control freak. And I don't mean that in some egotistical way. The team will tell you that I'm only an egotist on Thursdays, But it's like I can do that, I can do that, I can do that, and
Yeah,
the guys keep saying, "Yeah, but there's only one of you now, and these
yeah,
games are bigger."
yeah.
Do you want to
You
do?
can't clone yourself,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
exactly, and that's exactly what they're saying. Do you want to do the business? Do you want to do the game design? I can't do the art, so the artists are safe. I can't draw stickmen. My art is terrible, but code and things I still interfere with. And I have actually architected the AI system. To being serious for a second, the AI is a big part of my thing, as you saw from AVP and all the other projects along the way. So I've created a complex, what I hope is a leading edge AI system for the programs to use. So again, it's not this creature patrols left and right, goes and has a break and does it again.
Commando style.
Yeah, exactly. We have a learning system where the creatures learn by what they see. So if they see you do something, they will learn.
Ooh.
Each creature actually has its own brain and learns. And then the intelligent creatures, when they meet other intelligent creatures, will pass on what they've found out. So you might have some guy who understands what trick you did to catch the other guy because he's been told. So the creatures will meet each other, will pass on knowledge of what they've learned about you. If they don't, if you meet a creature who doesn't know anything about you, then they'll fall into the trap that the first creature did. If the first creature got to him before you did, he's told them.
That's very interesting mechanic.
Yeah.
The smart thing is don't let anyone tell tales.
So you should not left any survivors, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly so on the bad guys. Or the nice thing is, so it's really complicated AI because that's what I do. You could get them all thinking you're doing one thing. They all tell each other that you're doing one thing, and you keep doing it over and over, so they think this is your pattern, and then you go and do something else completely to confuse them. So you can use it, to lie to them about your
Trick,
techniques
yeah,
and
trick.
tricks. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's new. I say
Yeah,
so myself.
yes,
Hand on heart,
yeah,
I think that's
100%.
new.
Definitely.
Yeah.
By the way, if you add this topic, do you use any AI actively during development, or like what's the current take regarding production that you have there?
Absolutely no AI whatsoever.
No AI whatsoever.
Apart from my handwritten AI code and the team's handwritten AI
Yeah,
code.
of course. Yeah.
Yeah, but no AI generation of art or anything else. And I know some people do, and it saves them time and money. But the whole team, like myself, are absolute perfectionists and just want to make everything handcrafted.
Mhm.
So I'm not going to do a big procedural world either. The world's handcrafted. Yes, it costs more time and money, but I think the results will be worth it off the back end. I think people are going to enjoy the game more. So I like the idea that if you go around every corner, there might be something there that's been crafted. Every bit of terrain has a reason. You can create enormous worlds with procedural, but it becomes very
boring.
repetitive very quickly. Yeah, so we are looking at ways of creating big worlds handcrafted. We have some landscape creation tools, but it's handcrafting. The tools will speed up the handcrafting rather than proceduralize.
Yeah, but the thing is, like in this case, you actually want to explore the world. If it's just randomly generated by AI,
Yeah,
you
it
don't.
shouldn't
You
be
don't. You
No Man's
don't.
Sky where the
Yeah.
color
you just
of rock is the differentiation.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Why would you bother? You just stay at home in your little base and say, I don't need to go out there because I've seen it already. So here you could walk quarter of a kilometre in one direction and just see various things, and then you suddenly walk in another direction, and the landscape might change absolutely completely. Like, oh god! But even the transitions between landscape types, everything has a plausible reason. To support my work in Open Wales, I went away and I did a bachelor's degree in natural sciences, just so I could study geology and physics and all these things at degree level. So my Open Wales actually can be believable.
Yeah,
So I did.
So you know what you're doing. Yeah, okay.
So
Yeah.
it's a 5-year natural sciences degree alongside the day job. So when we create worlds, it's plausible.
I mean, I'm pretty sure, like, if you say this to someone, it's like nowadays in gaming industry, it's like, no, I don't need this. I don't need this. It's too much work. That's such a big difference between then and now. And we had this discussion with Yako, like the games that are made now, they're nowhere near the quality they were back in like a couple of years ago.
Not quality, like the effort. That's the thing. Effort.
Effort, yes.
Effort's the thing. Quality, like, technology gets better, like rendering and all these things gets better and so on and so forth. But the effort that you had to put in before in order to achieve that 3D engine where you actually could go through the 3D environment because you had to do it yourself, like wasn't really on the table before.
There's no Unity or Unreal to do that. We had to build
exactly.
it. I agree with you. I don't blame the devs for that. There's a lot of commercial pressure on them to get things out quickly. But I'm very lucky that we've been funded, and I've had a background where I have been a perfectionist and the team perfectionist. So hopefully that'll show through in the. I'm not saying we're perfect. It's not a sales pitch, but I've always genuinely been a perfectionist because I've had to be, because there weren't any tools, and that comes through into what we're doing as a team. That level of perfectionism. And again, I'm not saying that as some sort of BS sales pitch. It's just I'll do the sales pitch later. You always leave them with the sales pitch. It's just a different way of thinking where we're not under that pressure. So I don't blame any of the devs whatsoever. It's just the situation they're in is, get this thing out, get it shipped. One of the things I used to say to teams when I was looking after production of Electronic Arts, they used to come to me and say, "We've got this great new engine, or we've got this great new lighting system, we've got this, and this." And I'm like, yeah, but does it make the game more fun? Are these technical things helping the game, or are they hindering the game? So there's a bit of a ponderance now to create really smart tech, but then you look at the game under it, and it's really shallow.
No,
And I'm like, build a smart game, then put the tech in there to support that game, not the other way around.
Yeah.
We're not building tech demos. We just do tech demos on the Amiga. Amiga scrolling bright screen around the screen and things. We don't want to get back to that. So I'm at this stage now of my life. I say to everyone, build the game, gameplay first. Make it beautiful, yes, but to support the game, not the other way around. Don't build a game around a tech demo.
Yeah, but that's I think even the current market force that's driving like all these successes where you have like, I don't know, Helldivers, Baldur's Gate, or these other games or Power World, where they are driven by kind of AA or small team kind of setup, where again, as you said, they go gameplay first, don't have the budget of the big corps, but they can still beat them at the
Absolutely
chart.
right. Absolutely right. And look at Baldur's Gate 3. I mean, Larian did fantastic things. I keep evangelizing them on LinkedIn because I know quite a lot of the guys. I'm friends with quite a lot of them, and I absolutely class that as my favorite game of all time because it's smart, it's clever. There's so many ways of doing things. You don't need big budgets for a clever game design.
Yeah.
You need clever designers, and that's exactly what they've got in spades. And that perfectionism comes through in what they do. And I honestly think it's the best game ever made for me personally.
I think if you have a big budget, it always kind of limits your way of like how we think about stuff and the way of creating and ideating. Because then it's like, oh, we have so much money, I don't care. But if you have very low amount of money, like you are on a small
Everything
budget,
counts.
yes, everything counts. You need to be very efficient. You need to be smart about things, and then that's when like the
And
magic
not run
happens.
out of
Basically,
money in the process.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. So it's like a small budget always. It's like pushes you to think differently.
I agree. And that's something where I mean I keep myself very, very current. Despite 44 years, I can still keep myself technically current, as you're hearing. But I also bring some of that history with me because we had to do these games in 6 weeks by ourselves. With a very low budget. I mean,
Sounds like hyper casual mobile.
Yeah, it's exactly right. But we had to do what were the games of the day? Yeah, we had 6 weeks start to finish. We didn't get paid until the royalties came out. I'd be living on toast or something for the 6 weeks, hoping until hell the game would come out and I'd get paid. And so we didn't have the big budgets, and those disciplines is something I've brought forward throughout my career of
Like
discipline.
all of them.
Yeah,
Literally
yeah.
all of them.
yeah. I still eat toast every day. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. But it was exactly that. We just didn't have massive funds, but we made games that were fun, and I think that's the key. No matter how
Yeah.
much money you've got, being serious.
Exactly.
That's what this. What is this industry about? It's fun. It's not about showing people pretty graphics. It's about, are those things fun? And my first ever game didn't have any graphics at all. The first game I shipped was for the ZX81. It didn't have graphics. It just had text. So you'd be having letter A would be your spaceship, and the letter X would be the bombs. But it was fun to play.
There's a thing, like it doesn't really matter if it like it looks great, if it's really like you having fun by playing the game. That's I mean, that's why it's called a game.
It's exactly right. Fun, game, entertainment. So I think use your budget to polish up and make the graphics and everything nice if you can. For heaven's sake, the core of your game is the gameplay. That's why we call it gameplay. It's what we want people to do, and that should always be the central focus of any product. So I think those of us who've been around for a long time see that, and I think sometimes where it shows, like the guys who run the Larian team have been around for a very long time. It shows that. I think that experience starts to show through. At least I hope it does. Maybe I'm just old and senile. I hope so.
That's definitely
But
so.
where do you get the inspiration from? I mean, the new game clearly takes inspiration from everything that you learned right in the last years. But what else? I mean, of course, you have the experience.
I get ideas in my head. I will go around, and I used to take a notebook out with me, and I still do sometimes, just to the supermarket and things. And I'll see something in the supermarket, and I'll suddenly start getting tracked onto a game. I'll be rushing around game notes. They just come rushing at me sometimes. Quite honestly, it drives my wife crazy. She's looking for the milk and beans, and I'm worrying about monsters. But yeah, so it does. I mean, I even wake up with game ideas and all sorts of things.
Mm.
But it is usually built around my core interest of the AI and stealth and the strategy and open world. So you can see from this where my areas are from this call, and so my brain's usually always permeating with ideas around.
I can understand that. Like I have some similar things with RPGs. Basically, that's also always on my brain. But then I'm doing gachas for.
There you go. Yeah, do you got you.
Well, what was your favorite RPG then, Jack?
Favorite RPG. I still haven't finished Baldur's Gate because I have a second kid now.
No, that's time consuming. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm at the end of the second act, but hopefully by the end of this year I'll finish it. For now, it would be, I would say, Witcher 3, hands down, like that.
It's a fantastic product. Absolutely agree. Again, it's
I read
fun.
the books before the games, so I
So
know
you
the
know?
franchise very well. Was a big fan, and like I remember the whole like CD Projekt Red going from nobody to this like random Witcher game, and then to this multi-billion company. It's a lot of hard work that they're putting into it. And
I still prefer
remember
Witcher 1 before Witcher 3
Witcher
because
1. Witcher 1 is having a remaster this year, by the way.
awesome.
Oh, is it really? That I didn't know.
Yeah, I have a very good friend working in Warsaw that's like
Yeah.
leading the tech
Awesome.
card there.
Yeah,
He
that was
always tells me
my
the last
favorite game.
things. But yeah, they're really doubling down on it. And I think I remember when I think this was the same time when Witcher 3 came out and Fallout 4 actually came out.
Yes.
Nobody was talking about Fallout 4 because Witcher
3 totally overshadowed them.
Yeah.
And that's why we're talking about where big budget doesn't always help. Look at Fallout 76. I mean, it just died despite the budget, you know?
Yeah,
Whereas you say CD Projekt Red came out of nowhere with Witcher 3, really. I mean, Witcher 1 and 2, the difference in quality between Witcher 2 and Witcher 3 was just phenomenal.
The other thing that I think was kind of a little bit beyond what I would experience before when I was like, I think like 2 years ago, I literally modded my Skyrim with like 200 gigs of additional mods.
Oh my gosh.
It's a completely different game.
It's a completely different game. And like, why do people keep making these super expensive games that are, like you said, Fallout 66, when there's like so many good stuff? Like there was literally like a mod that would add 2,000 lines, fully voiceovered for a character for one of the expansions on Skyrim, the vampire girl, basically, and she would have commentary on everything. Like she would literally be like AI, like you would do this or that, and she would like have it in her catalog and like told you something about it, have some like relation trees that would unlock and stuff like it was completely different game suddenly.
You know, now after this call, I'm going to be asking you for where all these mods are because I love Skyrim.
Get there, and like I've seen Skyrim's being fine-tuned to like with like 8K textures and all these other things. That's great. Like you can up the graphics a lot. That's one thing. But there's a lot of content that people created. All these being able to have multiple followers, multiple quest lines, multiple different things that are enriching the game so much. So that's the other way for me, that like sometimes you don't really need to go like I guess to look for the new one, just like refine the old one. And I refine, like it's always the mods. Like I don't think so people or like companies have that exponential manpower to do this what modders do if they really fall in love with the product.
You're quite right, and that's why with the game we're designing now, we're already talking about Mike Meaden, my business partner on this. Mike's already talking about how do we support modders, and because it becomes your game. It's not just our game then. It's the game people want it to be. So I think modding is really, really important now. Steam Workshop support, etc. And look what it's done for Baldur's Gate 3. It's given that a lot more noise recently. So yeah, I agree with you. I pulled down mods for all sorts of things. So 100% with you. And you mentioned, I just thinking about RPGs. I haven't mentioned one of my major projects again, Mr. Open World. It was a game called Power Crystal, which was a big open world RPG. It never shipped, but it got done, and the industry saw it. And some of the Bethesda people very kindly said it was part of their inspiration for Morrowind and Skyrim, etc.
Morrowind, that's my favorite.
So I got asked by Trip Hawkins, and then for the audience here, we should name his name. That was the founder of Electronic Arts. He had a separate spin-off, 3DO. Probably remember the 3DO console.
3DO, Heroes of Might and Magic.
Yeah, exactly it.
And he had well, one of the best games ever.
Exactly right. And he launched the 3DO M2 console, and I was asked to be the launch title for that. So we put the team together. We did a huge sprawling RPG, Power Crystal. And then we were so pleased about it. And then we got a message: the console's been stopped. Like, okay. So the first time in my career I've actually built a game, then the machine no longer exists to put it on, which was a bit gutting, I have to say. It still hurts, but it's just how it was. And I went to the mainstream EA after that, anyways. No, there's no bad blood between Trip and I. It's just the way it worked out with the console. But yeah, but that was a big open world RPG, and I'm really proud that a lot of the RPG people now have got to see it. They're saying it's inspired them. You'll probably find that online somewhere, Jacob, too, with some scary pictures.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Was that
Power Crystal M2 for my M2 console is. So it's 3DO M1 was Machine 1, the original 3DO console, but the sequel's supposed to be 3DO M2, 3DO Machine 2.
I think I have it.
Yeah, of course you have
that.
Yeah, of course.
It's fast. This man's faster.
Yeah, exactly.
Take them a prototype cancelled. This one.
That's the boring pictures. There's one of the characters. Yeah, but these are from it.
Okay.
That's one of my favorites when we did the snow scenes. I mean, again, it doesn't look anything now, but this was mid-90s,
Like it was literally like Skyrim.
There you go. That's one nice town shot.
What's the date we're talking here?
Mid-90s.
Mid-90s. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's very, very advanced.
Yeah.
If you roll back one. That's what it actually looked like going down the streets. That one didn't have the ground textures, but you can see the sort of buildings we're doing, which wasn't bad for the day. Because these are all production images. None of these are finished game images. The ones you found here are all the production diary photos. But yeah,
that's really nice.
This
awesome. Looks great, even.
Yeah, it's very good. Yeah, that was. That's very good.
That was it. That was a guy called Andrew Noble and Dave Tolley were the artists who did that. I think they did a fabulous job. So those are test characters. That's why they're very polygony. They're not the real characters.
They still look good.
Yeah, this feels pretty good. Yeah, come on.
They copied me at the bottom with my big hat, I think.
Okay, Jane, give us where's the sales pitch you were talking about? What's the sales pitch for?
I was kidding, but I just hope that we just build some interest and get some excitement going for the Xenomorph games. It's, as you can see, 44 years I've not lost a passion, and we've brought, I think, some of the best developers in the world together to create this thing. So I just want to bang the drum and say we're doing this, we're listening, we're gamers too. We're taking what we've learned about stealth, what we've learned about open world, and we're putting it into Xenomorph. I mean, my partner, Mike Meaden, big open world guy, very big technical open world guy from the technical side. He's just come off Forza Horizon to do this with me. He was a producer of Forza Horizon, so we know the team have such a pedigree in this. So we want to make the game like you guys, the viewers, not just you two guys, I mean you two guys as well, want to play. So give us feedback, talk to us. We're going to start getting more active in the community, and we're going to make Xenomorph something that we all want to play, because we wouldn't. I'm not doing this for the cash. I'm nearly 60 years old. I'm doing this for the passion.
Yeah.
So that the big pictures, we really are genuinely trying to make something different. We've brought in some absolutely incredible people. Mike was producer on Star Citizen as well before he went to Forza.
Star Citizen, that's a story we're following pretty closely.
Yeah, we are.
There's a huge story there. You need to talk to Mike one day. Bring Mike on here, and he'll talk to you for hours.
When they release?
Yeah, just as long as he doesn't break his NDAs, he'll be talking for days with you. But we've brought people in from the open world genre, and it's not just me, it's not just my game. I came up with the concept, but we've put one incredible team around it. We've got, rather than being publisher funded, we've been investor funded, and investors that have given us a really, really good deal, because the investors who are all coming were passionate for the game. So it's even the commercial side, people are like, we want you to do this. And I really hope it's going to create something special. I want to create, as I'm getting older, I want to create that follow-up to the success I've had over the years on multiple projects. So really, it's taking pieces from all the different projects I've done and what I did right and what I did wrong. Because gosh, I made some mistakes in games, we all do. And I want to actually bring that together into a whole new survival world.
Can people learn somewhere about the project, either a website or Discord or some kind of?
There's about to be.
Awesome.
You can Google the press release in some of the interviews we've done online now. So you'll see, just Google my name Xenomorph. There's a lot of content, but we are waiting until we're happy with things to show, which isn't too far away, and then you'll see a blitz on content.
Jane, thanks very much for coming. I hope you can come on again and we continue talking, because you mentioned like how many hours we have in this. This can be a series of multiple hours of discussions. Oh my God, it's
one of 200, yeah.
Very, very lovely and very wholesome. Really, thank you for making the time here.
Yeah.
Honestly, I appreciate you two guys wanting to talk to me and share with your audience, because I think it comes across. I genuinely still have the passion, so I love talking to everyone like you guys.
Yeah, that's what we definitely need to talk about a little bit in current times.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Thank you very much, dear listeners. Thank you very much for coming. I joined the Slack channel. I will put all the links in the show notes so you can check out what Jane is doing, and then see you next time. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.